religion. Like, Islam is no Mickey Mouse religion. It's false, but it's serious. It really means business. Or Calvinism is, it's completely false, but it really means business. And it had serious consequences. But what the devil wants to do is he's taking the true religion and is subverting it from inside, and once he has a hold of it, he brings it down to a level of insignificance. It's interesting to see that in the protocols of the elders of Zion, they say that they will take over the papacy and will make it irrelevant, not serious. I don't remember the exact words that they use, but this is what we see before our eyes. And this is what's happening with the papacy, with this canonization of John Paul II and John XXIII. And hopefully, if we look at the events that are unfolding in Ukraine, some people are expecting the Russian invasion of Ukraine to start on Sunday. The Russian troops are massed in Ukraine. I think it would be the perfect timing for that invasion of Ukraine to start on Sunday. It seems that may happen this way. But it would be a perfect providential timing. Just like when Pope Francis, you remember, recently released two doves, one Ukrainian girl and one Ukrainian boy. And they released doves. One dove was attacked by a crow immediately and the other one by a seagull. This attack of the doves already happened before, on May 16th, and Pope Francis once. And it happened a third time in the most spectacular way. And the pictures are like a very clear omen, like these two lightnings on February 11th, 2013. That they are really asking. They are asking God to strike them, because they are mocking Him. And this week, again, also another omen, you can call it, a sign. I think these are signs of providence. This man who lives in Italy in a street called the street John 23rd, gets himself pictured in front of a cross erected in honor of John Paul II. And as he takes the picture, the cross falls on him and he dies. And this happens in the week of the canonization of John Paul II. So God is also sending some message. What we see is this Mickey Mouseation. And I think, this is my theory, so it's my personal theory, I don't impose it on him. What Benedict XVI did last year was simply to bring down the office of the papacy. It's an attack. His stepping down is an attack on the papacy because he left it avowedly for health reasons. What do we see 1 year later? That he's doing fine. His health is good. His health is great as far as papacy is concerned. Many popes were much more sickly than he was. If ever he was sickly, Pope St. Gregory the Great spent his entire papacy in a bed. He ruled the church from his sick bed. He's one of the greatest popes of the Catholic Church. So it's not sickness. The reason invoked is completely wrong. And there is something which is ridiculous when the reporters ask him, why are you wearing the white cassock? And he answered, for practical reasons, because black cassocks were not available when I stepped down. Well, the black cassocks are available now. And do you think in the city of Gamarelli and all these tailors, because many people are buying cassocks still in Rome, no black cassock is available to your size? Just like when Pope Francis was elected, he had a white cassock ready. The collar was a bit too wide, but he could put on a white cassock. There are plenty more black cassocks available in the Vatican than a white cassock. And the reason is completely ridiculous. And canonically, a pope can step down. But one of the three canonical reasons that is, it must not be done under duress. That's the theory of Father Kramer, with which I disagree. I don't think there was any duress. I think there was a deliberate intent of Pope Benedict to destroy the papacy. It's an operation to destroy it. I think there is a deliberate intent on his part. So there must be no duress. There is no duress. I don't see any trace of duress. He keeps on saying, I stepped down of my own free will. And not only that, but he backs Pope Francis. He praises him. He says he has got a greater charisma than I have. He does a better job. He's going to address the problem of child sex abuse and all that, and blah, 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 blah. He's better than I am, you know, and I'm happy where I am. I'm getting bored sometimes, so he gave him the permission to, you know, move around outside the Vatican and so on and so forth. He's going to show up on Sunday for the canonization of John Paul II, because he beatified him. So he signs whatever Pope Francis does, he agrees, they agree. It's an illusion to believe that these two don't agree. It's like liberals and Democrats, or conservative and Labour, you know, they all agree on the same principles. They are part of the same system. So that's Francis and Benedict. And the second reason is that he can do it, he's allowed to do it. You can step down from an ecclesiastical office if you can do it. For instance, in the case of local ordinaries, normally they cannot of their own step down because they are attached to a flock, they need the permission of the Holy Father. But the Pope can do it. And third reason, they must give correct reason, good reasons. And it's on this that I challenge what was done last year. So, but this is an operation to degrade the papacy, to put a clown nose on the papacy, because the aim is to destroy everything. So they are using the papacy to destroy the Catholic faith, and once everything has been more or less destroyed, they are going to destroy the papacy itself. And this is the position of Archbishop Lefebvre. We do what we do because we love the papacy. We will not accept the papacy to be treated that way by these people. Because we are Catholics. And we are there, you are here today for the love of the papacy. Not, if it were not, you would be in the wrong place. We want the papacy as God has established it. It does not belong even to the Pope to redefine the office of Peter. The one who defines the office of Peter is Christ, not the Pope. The Pope has no power to change the nature of his office. And they are changing it into a presidential office with a limited mandate. And the first thing, you notice, the first thing that Pope Francis did when he became Pope was to appoint 8 cardinals in order to curtail his own papal powers. That's the first thing he did. Not the fact of ridiculing his power, but the fact that he's diminishing the amount of powers that he has. And then they canonize themselves automatically. They canonize all the Pope of Vatican II. Just like in the seminaries, there is no truth before Vatican II, so you burn the books that are before Vatican II. I remember I was in Bombay, there was a Jesuit priest, and he had lots of traditional books in his priory. He didn't know what to do with it. I asked him if he could donate them to me. No, he said, I will destroy them. I will destroy these books. So for them, the same way. There is hardly any holiness before Vatican II. From Vatican II onwards, the Church is much holier than it was before. Let alone the fact that it's a new conception of holiness. And the pride which is involved there. You will remember well that John Paul II was canonized by the medias. They are canonized, just like Pope Francis is canonized by the medias. So I think he should canonize himself at the same time as he's canonizing John Paul II. And maybe, Benedict XVI as well. I mean, canonize them all. And be done with it. Because that's the way they believe themselves to be so holy. And this is a typical mockery of the concept of sainthood. Because if everybody is a saint, nobody is a saint. If to be a saint, as Pope Francis says, is to be great in your humanity. If Christ is holy and divine because he's so human, that's a blasphemy of Benedict. Benedict says Christ is so divine because he's so human. That's a blasphemy. If that's the notion of holiness, there is no more holiness. Because if everybody is a saint, nobody is a saint. If everybody is exceptional, nobody is exceptional. If everybody is special, nobody is special. That's why this modern expression, you are somebody special, is completely empty and means nothing. And they are doing the same thing with the notion of sainthood. And so I could go on, but you probably know the rest of the actions of. But with insight, we realize more and more that their aims is to bring down the because Satan knows that that Our Lady is going to triumph through the papacy. It's interesting. He says, "I'm not going to triumph before the Pope consecrates Russia to my Immaculate Heart." So she's going to triumph, but her instrument will be the Pope, just like in the vision of St. John Bosco. And so Satan, expecting that, he knows that the angle is coming from there. Now it's time for him to destroy the papacy, or to really trample it underfoot, to make it completely irrelevant. And that's why Pope Francis delivers the good there, and is making a monkey of himself. And he's not fixing the church at all, because if you tell me that in order to solve the abuse of the priests, you are going to appoint a commission, it means that you are going to do nothing, because in political language, to appoint an inquiring commission means not in my life, over my dead body. I'm going to do nothing about it. And we haven't seen any punishments being inflicted on the priest guilty of those crimes, or those covering up those crimes. We haven't seen any punishments taking place. But so the media criticize those horrible scenes because they are horrifying per se. So you can understand the intent of the media is to destroy the Catholic Church, or those who own the media. But even without them, there will be an outrage, yes. But in order to buy himself some popularity, Pope Francis throws his dignity to the dogs. You can see, for instance, the fact that he's wearing black shoes, he's wearing dark pants, that you can see his CVs under his cassock. That's a sign. His cross is in iron. He's got the ring of Paul VI. He's bringing back the bent cross. Benedict was using that cross sometimes or often. Now Pope Francis is bringing all kinds of different crosses, not just the bent cross, but the wood cross, all the crazy things. And we had all this was written in his Mass of Enthronement last year. In his Mass of Enthronement, which was, I watched it on YouTube, which is the religion of the Antichrist, where he puts just on the gospel side, there he puts all the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Jews, the Muslims, there, closer to the altar, on the gospel side. He gives communion to Angela Merkel and to Nancy Pelosi, to pro-abortion people, to Joe Biden, to obvious Masons. And his speech is a Masonic speech. And he flouts the right of allegiance. Normally the cardinals who kneel in front of the Pope give the Pope the apple. Now he stands and give them a hug. How are you doing? Only 8 of them. So everything he flouts. He doesn't genuflect before the host that he consecrates. All these he calls ladies without veil to do the readings at his inauguration mass. So the inauguration mass was already telling us everything. Now we just see what's coming out of the. But now you're in a phase where they are so sure of their victory that they are mocking. Now the tune is changing. Paul VI took himself seriously. He thought he had a mission. Padre Pio says he was a Freemason. Let us say that he was a serious Freemason, a dutiful person in his job. But now what we have is that there is a new tone which is coming, which is a tone of mockery. It's a tone of mockery. And usually when you do that, you are triggering God's response. Because if you're not using this tone of mockery, God can understand it's done out of weakness or deception and so on and so forth. And God holds His justice. But now they are mocking. And I expect that Assisi 4 is coming very soon after this canonization of John Paul II, because it's a logical thing, because Assisi is just down the street of Rome. Pope Francis is wearing the name of Francis. And they are mocking St. Francis in order to destroy the very notion of the truth. And to make also religion itself a ridiculous concept. Because you line them up all there and it becomes like a food court of religion, where you choose whether you're going to use Burger King or McDonald's or whatever else there is, or Kentucky Fried Chicken. Even if I believe that Kentucky Fried Chicken is a slightly better religion than McDonald's. So this is the timing where we are in. So we have to hold on. I don't think we were wrong all these years before. So we saw the Russian tanks coming in the 70s. I remember when I was a kid, we were expecting the Russian tanks to invade Europe in the 70s. So we were wrong so many times. But this time you have a new thing, this mockery of God. This mockery of Our Lady. Our Lady is being mocked by this beach balloon and this football scarf on the altar of St. Mary Major. It's a mockery of Our Lady. What is it otherwise? It's a complete mockery. Or saying that Our Lady, she got angry at the foot of the cross, she was indignant, and she said, how can God do such a thing to my son? That's what she said to herself. That's what Pope Francis said of her in one of his homilies. They are mocking her. And so, if you mock the office of Peter, or if you mock Jesus Christ, then you can get away with it. But you cannot get away with it if you mock our Blessed Mother. And they have mocked Our Lady for far too long. For far too long. It's amazing now that the Masons themselves are trembling in front of Russia. They don't know what's coming. They are afraid of the resurgence of Russia, and also they are afraid especially of the diplomatic power of Russia that has cobbled a terrible alliance with China and other secondary nations. In the meantime, the West has lost its moral strength and stamina, because 4 years ago we would have stood to the Russian tanks. We would have stood our ground. But then what you see is that Obama is not standing his ground in front of Putin. Putin is ridiculing Obama, for which I'm very grateful. But the West doesn't know how to handle this, and they are fearing what's coming to them. And they still mock while they sense at the same time that the punishment is coming upon them. Very interesting. And nature rebels against man. The climate is messed up everywhere, including in India, where the weather is pleasant. That's not normal. When I went to India, the weather was pleasant. It means serious disturbance in world climate. And in Philippines, recently I was in Tacloban, the places that was devastated. It's very spectacular, the devastation that took place there. Winds that culminated at 400 kilometers an hour, winds. What is called a super typhoon, something that never happens. Okay, and then after Yolanda, there was another typhoon in Mindanao, and then it broke 5 main bridges over the island because of the floods. And many people were made homeless there. So when you go to many places in Mindanao, you see people living under tarps. And I've seen those people living under tarps in Zamboanga, because of the Muslim rebellion. The downtown of Zamboanga is wrecked, and you see impacts of machine gun and grenades, and burnt out buildings on the downtown of Zamboanga. That's 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers long urban area. And those people have not been properly relocated yet. And 500 babies died in 1 year, or young children died in one year, because the hygiene there is not good, sanitization is not good. And they are dying, and they are not being relocated, because they are out of the news now. And same thing with the other victims of the other typhoons that struck the Philippines. So that's what I see in the Philippines itself. So nature is rebelling, is showing what man is doing to God. The insults that man is piling up against God. It cannot go on forever. Signs are there. So the omens that I was mentioning at the beginning, the signs in nature and the disruption in the world order, in the diplomatic harmony among nations. The nations don't get along anymore. It's coming to a head. Also, countries are spiraling into civil war, into chaos, or dire poverty in some countries, like Cyprus, Greece, Spain. Those countries are poor countries now. They are third world countries. When I went to France last year, 2 years ago, the infrastructure of France in places looks like a third world infrastructure. And many beggars in Paris. Lots of them. Lots of beggars in Paris. When half of the youth in Spain is out of job, out of work, you have a clear failure of the liberal system of things. So the human race is beginning to pay the price. Nothing much to be seen here in Australia except socialism, communism, that is crushing every private initiative. I'm being told, Father, to open a school is very hard. Yes, that's socialism, because you are crushing the socialism. So even you are suffering, even though you've got the whole rest of the most beautiful country and great people. So but overall, I mean, these are, I think the time for the correction is, the major correction is not so far. And when you start to mock God, the devil is so confident of his game, he becomes overconfident. The mistake that the devil always does is to overplay his hand. Like he did in the person of our Jesus Christ. He overplays his hand, and because he overplays his hand and bets wrongly on a hand that he thought he was winning, he loses the entire poker game. Because he gambles, and he gambles successfully for a long time. But then after some time, he overplays his hand. He forces God to come out in a most wonderful way, says our Blessed Virgin Mary. And it's the fact that they attack the papacy that way, that they bring it to the dog, that they make it Mickey Mouse papacy. It's a sign for us that at last God will resurrect the papacy. Because the more the devil tries to destroy something, the more it comes to life again, the more it is restored. So my expectation is a great restoration of the papacy. Just like this crisis, the best outcome of this crisis is a refoundation of the episcopal order. Because the bishops that we have are lame. Novice order bishops, the Catholic bishops who did not stand their ground. Archbishop Lefebvre said, how is it possible that I am alone? There are 4,000 bishops. How is it possible? Those things are obvious to me. How can those things be so obvious to me and not obvious to the 4,000 others? Because there is a serious problem in the order of the bishops. It's an order that needs to be entirely fixed, refounded, made strong again, so that we can enter and face the Antichrist maybe after some time. Some priests say 1,000 years, others say 25 years. That's the optimist prediction of Bishop Williamson. I'm more inclined to the 1,000 years. Because if the devil was allowed to triumph for so long, at least 100 years, our Lord told him, and he was overheard by Leo XIII, our Lord told him, you got 100 years to destroy it. Here are the keys. Destroy it if you can. So if the devil was given 100 years, well, Our Lady is not going to get a quarter of that. She should get possibly 10 times the amount, hopefully. But these are matters of controversies. I don't take those seriously, like some other priests do. It's a matter of controversy. So you are entitled to your private opinion on this. There is no compulsion for us to be one theory or the other. But I think it's more likely that Our Lady is going to fill the granaries of heaven. Many nations have been untouched yet by the missionaries, or hardly ever penetrated by the missionary efforts, like China, India, Asia at large. And Asia is 2/3 of humanity. Australia, our little region here, is 2/3 of humanity. That portion of humanity has never seen the triumph of Christianity, except in small enclaves like Goa and Macau, but that's insignificant. Or the Philippines, which is significant. But Asia at large. So I think there are plenty of reasons to hope that the compression of the spring is leading to a bigger and a more spectacular explosion of good in the years to come. Because this is what we see over and again in the history of the Church and in the mystery of redemption. This is what you should meditate during this Easter time. That, as we say in French, le démon ne perd rien pour attendre. The devil loses nothing by waiting. The more the devil postpones the hour of triumph, the more he gathers for himself a good pasting, a good bashing, a good crushing. Our Lady prefers. She goes in a crushing way. Her dialogue with the devil is crushingly convincing. So the more the devil makes us wait, the more it means there will be a release of divine power, which makes sense because Our Lady is a mediatrix of all grace. She is the one who is the expert at releasing the divine power. So she's going to have it her own way, the way she wants. What I lament about Bishop Fellet and his attitude is that he dictates to Our Lady a scenario of progressive healing of the Catholic Church, a gradual healing of the Novus Ordo. That's the vision of Father Fruger and the others. So we're going to join them, and we will not budge ourselves, and we will, by joining them, we will progressively help healing the Catholic Church. I don't think it's Our Lady's way. Her triumph happens all of a sudden, like Judith of Jael, or the lady of Thebes that throws the stone on Abimelech. The enemy is killed all of a sudden. That's Our Lady's way. And she does also perfect house cleaning. She's a good housewife of Saint Joseph. So she's going to clean house, and the house is going to be spotless, as she is, the Immaculate. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much. Or unless you have any questions? No. All right, so God bless you. I'm going to take care of the sick call, so I talk to you